call the meeting to order. And the first order of business is for our vice chairman to read the state's instructions that we read before each meeting. Perry?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As a preliminary matter and as the chairman requested, this is Perry Jewell, the vice chairman of the Board of Health. I'll do a roll call to confirm that we do indeed have a quorum and those present so that we can make sure everybody can hear.
So George Eamon.
Begin with...
Yeah, George Eamon, I'm present.
Yeah, George Eamon is present. Paul Fortin.
Paul Fortin, present.
And Perry Jewell, and that is a quorum. Evan Waters may join our meeting as we get started. We also have with us today, of course, our agent, Jim Gareffi, and our administrative assistant, Andrea Schnepp, and Dan Proctor, who's experienced and well-regarded installer who will be speaking to the board. So, in accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast over the Lunenburg Public Access channel. And this meeting of the Lunenburg Board of Health is being conducted remotely. Town of Lunenburg, in response to the COVID-19 coronavirus, is currently following guidance from the Lunenburg Board of Health, Massachusetts Department of Public Health, and the CDC regarding the virus and steps communities can take to prevent the spread. And all town facilities are currently closed to the public except by appointment. In accordance with the governor's order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Paragraph 20, all public meetings are being conducted remotely. The order, which you can find posted on the town website on the COVID-19 Information Center page, accessed through the town manager's webpage, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely as long as reasonable public access is afforded to the public so that they can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will allow public comment at the end, limited to 3 minutes per speaker. For this meeting, the Board of Health is convening by Zoom as posted on the town's website identifying how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that most attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you and take care in screen sharing your computer. Anything that you broadcast will be captured by the recording. We are now turning to the first item on the agenda, but before we do that, let's permit me to cover a few ground rules. The chair will basically introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude the remarks, the chair will invite others to comment, question, provide motions. Someone was just entering. I just let them come in. Okay, that's Evan. We have Evan Waters with us now. Evan, can you hear me?
Yeah, and yes, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. So please remember to mute your phone or computer when you're not speaking. That will avoid some feedback. Please remember to state your name clearly and in a way that will help us to accurately generate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. So, Mr. Chairman, I think that covers it. The meeting's all yours.
Thank you, Perry. Well done. What isn't mentioned in that speech that we were required to give is the fact that these meeting minutes or these meetings that we have via Zoom are public information. So anything that occurs is available to any member of the public who wishes to see them. Item 1 on our agenda is Where is the agenda? I should have these memorized. 33 Boutwell Street, looking for groundwater offset and a wetlands offset. Danny, are you taking care of this?
I am.
Understand?
I am
ahead.
taking care of this.
You have the floor, sir.
33 Butwell Street. Basically, we have a failed Title V system with an existing leach pit. And we have a proposed septic tank pump chamber to a 34 by 13 and a half foot leach field. We're asking for a 12-inch reduction, resulting in 48 inches above seasonal high groundwater because we have 2 minute-inch soils at that site. And also we have a non-perennial stream, which is 100 feet is the regulation, and the actual distance is going to be 68 and a half feet. This site is serviced by town water, and there are no wells within the proposed septic system. There are a couple of butters that are on wells, but their well radiuses are outside the 100 foot.
Okay. Tell me what, and I should know this, and I feel silly asking it, but tell me what a perennial stream is. Is that one that runs only periodically during the year or continually during the year?
I believe it runs periodically.
Okay, okay, all right. I thought so, but I wasn't, well, it would, yeah.
So it'll be
I
it'll
thought
be
that's
dry-
what it was.
it'll be dry in the months of August. July, August, early
When I did-
September.
I started analyzing it too much in my mind, and I said, well, perennial means one thing, non-perennial means the other, it does it. So anyway, fine, okay. I don't see any issue with it. Does any other board member have any comments to make? Or questions?
No, I'm okay, George.
I hear none. Jim, are you out there somewhere? I don't see you.
I am out here.
Okay. Would you like to speak to this?
So it's a strange lot for a number of reasons, both the geometry of the lot, it's kind of like the cut up of all the leftover parcels. And the fact that it has town water from another street, which is actually lucky in this regard. And that the soil is 2 minute-inch perk. It certainly didn't look it when we dug and poured water into it, but it was. So I think, the variances that are being requested certainly make sense. Again, because of the geometry, the fact that the house is already set at the elevation it's set at, by lowering that a foot, it also helps the grading around the front of the house. And that front area it seems to be used for a whole bunch of other things. I guess maybe in normal times they might even park in it, although we'll have to kind of figure that out. Now it'll be raised just a little bit, they won't be able to park, but I don't have an issue with the variances requested.
Okay, thanks, Jim. I did have one question I meant to ask you, Danny, and I didn't. And you had mentioned that this was a replacement of a Title V system. Is that an actual Title V system since '88 or is it an older system?
Yeah, it's a pit system, so my guess is it was probably put in the 80s.
Yeah, okay, that's
Yes,
what I.
6 foot diameter pit system,
6 foot.
which was pretty common in the 80s.
Yes, it was. Thank you. Would someone care to make a motion that we either approve or deny this request? Somebody make a motion? No? Yes? Paul?
I'll make a motion to accept this request.
I'll second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded that we approve this request, and we will now do a roll call vote on it. Perry?
Aye. Perry
Paul?
Jewell.
Paul?
Aye, Paul Fortin.
Evan?
Waters, aye.
George Eman? Aye. Motion passes. The request is approved. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Today is the 4th, right? I'll be writing 20 for the next 6 months. So that one's done. Our next one is at 7:15, so we've got a few minutes that we have to wait.
Mr. Chairman, if I might just kind of some comments on this plan and kind of one that's coming up further.
Which plan?
The 31 South Road, just kind of general comments on it, not the plan itself.
Okay.
You want to comment on the upcoming plan, Jim?
No, just a general comment to this plan and one other one that's coming up a little bit later on.
Okay,
Just something for the board to consider.
sure.
So a lot of these small lots have wells on it that are no longer in use. And we have one hearing on the agenda tonight because we kind of failed to address it at the time, maybe of the variance hearing. And I'm trying to get a sense of what the board would like to do. This plan that's coming up has a well on it, and your regulation, and it's served by town water, so the well's not being used. But your regulations talk, allow an irrigation well, and they allow it with the approval of the board. And so one of the things, and again, it's really up to the board, that you might want to consider as you're looking at these lots, is the approval of the irrigation, the on-site or existing well as an irrigation well, if somebody wants to keep that well for landscaping. Consider that as part of the approval.
It's a great idea, so they don't have to come back.
Well, I'm not sure of that. I'd have to think on that a little bit, Jim. I understand what you're saying, but a couple of things popped up while you were saying it. If that being the case, the individual could request that variance at the same time, as opposed to coming back later on. So if they didn't do it the first time, well, perhaps there's something that's happening that I got to think about it.
Yeah, no, I guess
We
my
can talk
thought
about
would be is if the board was amenable to that I would let designers know that if there's a well on site and if they wanted to try to keep it as an irrigation well, that they should consider that, should add that in their consideration for the variances so that the board could address it all at once.
Yeah, and I understand completely what you're saying.
Okay. That was all.
It's we don't have to talk. We don't have to make a decision on that tonight. We could all think about that a little bit.
Okay.
I don't see any other action for people who may be interested in this. There's no visitors. So I'm going to go ahead and move on with item 2 on the agenda, which is a request for approval of another 5-foot separation. This is for, by the way, for what? On South Row Road, that's what it is, okay. For a change in the high groundwater level, 12-inch reduction from, it looks like 60 inches to, well, to 48 inches. And that's a 1-inch perk rate. This is similar to the one we just did, gentlemen, and it's almost identical. From 10 feet, 10 feet to a water line. I assume this is a town water line, and looking for a request to reduce that to a 5-foot separation. Go ahead, Dan.
Yep, so basically, like you say, George, pretty much the same thing, 31 South Road. Typical Hickory Hills lot, a lot of constraints. Obviously, the front of the house is Hickory Hills Lake, so we need to design in the back of the property, which is the driveway area, extremely tight. Really put the leach field in the only spot we could put it. Again, we're asking for a 1-foot offset because it's tube in an inch soil. 10 foot to the water line, we're requesting a 5-foot separation. And also the minimum distance of 20 feet to the foundation, we're requesting a 13-foot separation. Same scenario, existing system is failing. Has not failed a Title V inspection. They just have had problems with it.
Mhm.
They're not selling the property at this moment.
Mhm.
So those 3 variance requests. And what Jim was talking about is on this plan, we have an irrigation well that's 25-foot setback. Is shown on the plan. The system is going to be about 50 feet from that. So I guess the point Jim was making is that something I should be requesting tonight so that we don't have to come back later and obviously go through the same process.
Yeah, I know, I understand what Jim is saying. Again, like many of these things, it would be a case-by-case basis. So I don't know, I can add, you know what, Dan, I will ask the board members if they have any reservations about granting that. What Danny is talking about is in cases like this, where there is a well on the property, and rather than, traditionally, we would destroy that well if it was tied to town water. This is now on district water. The well still exists, not being used for the home, I would presume. The practice has been to destroy that, as I said. Danny is asking that in cases like this, and Jim mentioned it also, would it be possible, or would the board be amenable to allowing a request to keep that well as a irrigation well, as they're called, use them to water the lawn and that sort of thing. Does anybody have any comments or any reservations about doing this, or do you think we should do it? Should we think about it a little bit before we make a quick decision?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I wanted to ask a question, please.
yes.
Is there a retaining wall that goes by the proposed wattles? I noticed that you're kind of close to the lake. And so I'm wondering, is there any kind of retaining wall to make sure that it doesn't flow the other way towards the lake? I see proposed wattles, right? They look like they're away from the lake, but with this blown up portion of the diagram, I can't see where the lake line is.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just wondering, is there any kind of retainer wall proposed?
So there is no,
Okay,
I'm
go
sorry.
ahead, Dan.
yeah, there is no proposed retaining wall. The straw wattles are for runoff, during construction to make sure
Oh.
that sediment does not get to Hickory Hills Lake. The system will be in the ground. This is underneath the driveway, so that there really is going to be no elevational change as far as the system goes. So because of that, there's no retaining wall. The straw wattles are basically for runoff, during construction with loose soils, that type of thing.
I must have missed how far away it was from the lake.
Mr. Chairman, I'll have a couple of questions and addressing this well issue. Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Harry.
I guess in general, I have no problem with considering that request at the same time, that systems work is being done. It always strikes me as a little paradoxical that is it just being connected now to town water, or was it previously? I imagine previously, but most all the houses down there are on town or on district water is actually what it is, the water district.
Yes.
I guess, the issue, of course, is always that the water be totally disconnected from the house otherwise. And, in that regard, that requires it to terminate somewhere away from the house, preferably, and not just be, still in the basement nearby within a few feet or something. The other thing is that the places that are on the lake, any of the lakes, can often use lake water for irrigation quite effectively. There's a number of pumps available on the market that you can take it directly from that. So I don't have a problem with it where the well already exists. And like in this case, that's probably the way it is being used already. It's just a matter of kind of formally recognizing that and having some record of it, and we should have a record of that. Obviously, the real risk is that if somehow there's cross crossing with the district water where you'd get perhaps contamination or something. That I guess it always seems to me that there ought to be some sort of permit or inspection or something to me to ensure that these are indeed disconnected. I would trust the installer otherwise to do that, and as long as there's such a notation, on the as-built or something. But that's the loose end I see on this whole thing of just approving it and not having a little more rigorous process for it.
In this, yeah, thanks, Barry. In this particular case, this is 1 minute perk. That water isn't going to be in the ground or going to be above 5 feet within seconds. It's going to be gone. It's 1 minute perk. It's going to go down an inch in a minute, and it's not going to get that much water a day unless they get a crowd of people living there. Again, I don't have a specific problem with doing this, but I think we have to formalize it a little bit first so that we don't set a precedent that later on we discover something that maybe would be a valid objection to it. I'd rather not do this now and do it later, but I think that would be something that we would have to have a vote on. It's not on the agenda, so we couldn't vote on it tonight anyway. But it's something for strong consideration, not too far down in the future.
What I can plan on doing, George, is I can have a discussion with my clients.
Yeah.
And just get their take on it. And if they're not opposed to losing the well, then we can just solve that problem. But if they're adamant about they really would like to keep it, then, I can come back and do that at another time.
Well, it's, I'm sure there's some cost involved in destroying a well too. If you can save the well, why not? If it's going to serve a good purpose. I keep coming back to one situation that we had here in town. I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago, perhaps you might even remember, up on the top of the hill in West Street, we had a situation where a well had been disconnected and onto district water, and they reconnected it, contaminated the whole tank. Remember that? That keeps popping up in my mind, so I'm looking for this one here. I don't really have an issue with, but I don't want to set a precedent right now, so I wouldn't vote on it tonight anyway. We'd have to go back and talk about it as an agenda item.
One other point of interest, just to get back to Paul's question, I apologize, but we missed the last variance request that's Paul was asking about.
Okay.
The proposed system is 95 feet from the lake.
Thank you.
Fire distance is 100 feet, and the borderline vegetated wetland requirement is 100 feet. We're 64 feet from that.
Mm-hmm.
So it needs an offset to wetland?
That's correct.
Okay, let me go back to
That was
page.
on page 2 of Doug's letter, Andrea.
I'm sorry?
That was on page 2 from Doug's letter.
Okay,
That-
George has my letter, so we need an offset to groundwater. Okay, thanks.
There's one around here somewhere. I don't have a copy of page 2 either.
It
Yes,
is on the letter, George.
On the
Yeah,
other side,
Chairman.
yep, requesting a reduction minimum off distance of 10 feet. So, yeah, I read that. SAS to a water line, requesting an LUA water line to 5-foot separation. Yeah.
And that's quite reasonable.
Okay, so we have those.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to move that we grant these 4 variances that have been requested.
Okay. Is there a second to the motion?
come on, Evan.
I will second the motion. George Eman, I second the motion. All in favor? Barry?
Aye. Barry Chairman.
Paul?
Paul Ford, aye.
George Eman, aye. Okay.
Evan,
Evan, is Evan still? I didn't see.
Yes,
Evan.
he's here.
Is he here?
I am. My son changed my name, so I was just noticed about 2 minutes ago.
does Jim have any information
Evan,
on
thank
that?
you.
Jim, do you have any comments for my minutes?
Yeah, I guess the board approved it, so.
Yeah, I think he did.
Okay,
I thought the comments he had made a little bit earlier were covering this one also. Okay. I didn't hear any objections. So similar, okay, that one's done. Yeah, we gotta wait a few minutes. West Street Terrace, yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Barry.
Yeah, just while we're waiting, I guess we might, I know we often end up waiting a little bit, but we might be able to reduce the amount of time for each applicant to maybe 10 minutes. We'd still take whatever time's required, obviously, but it seems that in general, 10 minutes is plenty of time, to
Yeah.
really deal with the properly structured, as they are generally, request. And, we can always take a little longer and delay that it's not uncommon for other boards' meetings to run behind schedule. Ours is always seems like is ahead of schedule. And,
Brilliant minds think alike, Barry. I've had the same thoughts. Actually, Andrea brought it up too. I think when we look at these things, we can tell if there's an issue or not. Some of them are, routine because of the nature of how Lunenburg sits in the ground.
and the good work
we
that
could do
is
that.
done by our agent and by the
Yeah, if
by
we
the
could schedule
engineers and
schedule what we
installers.
need later, for more. We'll give this another minute, and if we don't have any extra visitors, we'll proceed. We must run a very boring meetings, that. Very rarely do we have any visitors, even when we're not Zooming.
It really is kind of amazing, I think, with all of, what you would think would have been a lot of interest in the COVID-19, but
Yeah.
I guess the communication is fairly complete without it.
But there's just so much of it.
And again, I think an awful lot is handled outside the meeting.
Yeah. Well, all you gotta do is turn the television on.
All right, what's next?
Okay, this is 17 West Street Terrace. The estate of Thomas Loma, care of Dan Proctor, William R. Proctor Incorporated. The upgrade variances are 310 CMR 15405 1H, requesting a local upgrade approval to allow a reduction in the 48-inch requirement of separation between the bed bottom and the soil absorption system and high groundwater. Requesting a 24-inch reduction, which will result in the soil absorption system being 24 inches above high groundwater with a class 2 soil. Also, 310 CMR 15405 1J, reduction in the 12-foot separation of the tank inlet and the outlet tees and high groundwater, provided is 6-inch tank inlet, 3-inch tank output, the 2.5-inch pump inlet, and 2-inch pump outlet. Dan?
Whalum area, existing leach pits failed Title V, and they're 2 4-foot deep leach pits put in the 80s in the groundwater. The site is serviced by town water. No room in the front of the yard. System will be going in the back of the yard. And we're going to design a Presby system so that we can go with the 24-inch above seasonal high groundwater. 27-minute per inch soil. Tanks and pump chamber will be monolithic as normal with, booted inlet and outlets to solve that problem about the separation of groundwater.
Okay. That's 27 inches?
27 minutes per inch soils.
27? Yeah, 27 minutes, wow.
Wow, it's
That's up behind the old landfill, right?
This is, so the end of West Street, take a right, West Street Terrace, that's
Yes,
towards Pleasant Street. soil
Yeah,
conditions pretty tight up there. Once you start down over the hill, they get better as you head
it
towards the
gets better as
landfill.
you're going downhill, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody have any questions or comments on this one? I've looked at it and I don't see anything that's objectionable. Jim?
So again, the Presby system allows applicants, property owners to ask for the 2-foot groundwater offset, which can make a real big difference in a lot where the water table's high. The house is already set, the lot's flat, which is the case in this site here. It helps them grade the site so they don't create such a mess, because the breakout grading that has to go out from the edge of the system is actually based on the bottom of the sand as opposed to the top of the system, as is with most pipe and stone systems. So again, that's why the Presby system. This system will be much better than what's already in the ground because it'll be out of the groundwater. Has the Presby system, it'll be pumped. The site's served by town water. There's no wetlands around. I don't really see an issue with the request.
Okay.
Oh, geez.
And there are no comments
No.
from the board. Would someone please make a motion to either accept or deny this request?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to accept these variances.
Thank you, Paul. Second?
Chairman, I'll second the motion. Evan Wong.
Thank you, Evan. Thank you for coming. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year, by the way.
You.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. All in favor? Head count vote. Evan?
Waters, aye.
George Heeman, aye. Harry?
Harry Jewell, aye.
Paul?
Paul Thornton, aye.
Okay, motion is approved. The variances are approved. Okay. And, wow,
See you at 8 o'clock.
no, actually, it's 7:45.
Oh, is that when I am? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think so. That's what it's gonna be. Yeah, I think it's 7:45.
Oh, I screwed up there. I put a whole half
Oh,
hour
it's
for
8
nothing.
o'clock, yeah. No, it's,
And none of you caught it.
8 o'clock.
Oh, you had another one on Page Street you were gonna do.
At 8:15, yeah.
I guess
So
you
all
could
these are
do
yours,
minutes and Jim could do, you could do budget, you could do minutes. We can talk about rubbish licenses, get rid of those things.
Yeah, okay, I guess we're gonna have to do that. We'll wait a little bit for the other one, for the South Road. We'll wait maybe 10 minutes or so, 15 minutes, see if we can get a little bit closer.
You got a whole half hour though, George, because I screwed up when I timed it.
Yeah, that's okay. Let's see. Minutes approval, the minutes of December 7th. Has anybody got any additions, omissions, or comments?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Perry.
Yeah, I had read those. I thought they were very well done.
Okay,
I would be happy to move that we accept those.
very good. Second, please.
Would second that.
Go ahead. Evan, were you going to do it?
Yeah, he seconded it, George.
Oh, he did second it. Okay, motion's made and seconded. All those in favor of the approving the December 7th minutes? Head count. Perry,
Yeah, Perry Jewell, aye.
George Heeman, aye. Evan, you still there?
Evan Waters, aye.
Aye. And Paul, you keep moving around the screen, Evan. Motion's made and seconded that we approve the minutes of December 7th. Under new business, we have COVID-19 update.
Why don't you do the budget, George?
Into the budget?
I want to do the budget.
Yeah, we have our budget. We sent it off to the town and we need to approve our budget. Andrea can give you some comments, some individual details if you like. So if you're curious as to how we're gonna spend the taxpayers' money this year, Andrea can tell you.
What they did is they increased my hours by 6 a week. So that if you pull it up under the salary administrative assistant, the increase there is 6 hours for me. What I did in the next section is we only get $1,785 for all of those things each year. We can always go back if we need more. So what I did is I shifted around a little. 1 year, we had needed a lot of money for rabid animal control and we shifted it in. We haven't needed that recently. And I've moved more into emergency preparedness. I've taken it out of other line items and office supplies. So all I've done is shifted around the money that we get, which is $1,785. On the bottom, we have Neshoba Health and we have Neshoba Nursing. We've put in an anticipated increase of 5%. They won't be meeting until the end of January to know for sure, but that's what's been included as an increase for Neshoba.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Perry?
No, I might just comment for Evan's benefit especially, but maybe otherwise too. The increase, of course, in the 6 hours per week for our administrative assistant is an ongoing request. That reduction was made, of course, when the town several years ago moved to not being open on Fridays, and everybody kind of got reduced, and then others have kind of gradually gotten it back. We've asked for that the last couple of years. Last year, it was initially accepted, and then it was, as things got tighter, just before the town meeting, the town manager dropped it again. It's not been an issue with regard to this year in the sense because there's been the special, fundings for COVID-19 and things of that nature, but it's clearly something that needs to be done since, Andrea has the one night a week that we ask her to be at our meetings too, and she needs to do that to take the minutes and the other day. So it's clearly hours that need to be worked on that. With regard to the Neshoba increases of 5%, I think, George, as chairman of Neshoba and Jim as the president there or the chief executive officer, can comment as to what they may expect. But I guess the other thing is just that in general, these are just a request at this point in time. This, gets consolidated with all kinds of other requests. And even though, as we had happen last year, that the town manager approved what we submitted, it got reduced subsequently. And we didn't actually even find that out until on the floor of town meeting, where it even as it was presented, it sounded as though it was mentioned that it was requested, but then it wasn't really detailed in any clarity that it was no longer included in the total. So it's, this is just the first in several steps of, trying to get the budget that'll really go into effect in July. It'll be for the year beginning in July, the fiscal year.
This was also done in anticipation of the CARES money having to be returned at the end of December. So now the CARES money does not have to be returned until next year. So I don't know how much the town has in that. I don't know if that'll change, hours.
And no one else does either, probably.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Thank you. Thank you. As far as the Neshoba budget goes, I won't comment on it, except that we've been crunching numbers as we do every single year to try to come up with something that keeps us viable and keeps us in business and taking care of the residents of the 16 towns that we service. for those of you who don't know, I think you probably all do, we have a hospice service that we take care of folks who are deathly ill, and that's not a pun. And we also have a nursing service that takes care of home visiting at the direction of the physician who takes care of the patient. I think in Sherwood now, I think we have roughly 100 employees. Is that right, Jim?
Yeah, it's probably in the 80 to 85 employee range. Yep.
Okay, yep. And they're all wonderful girls. They stick with us. Of course, when COVID hit, these hospitals, because of a shortage of medical personnel, they were going crazy with money. And I don't think we lost one person that left us and went for the money. They stayed with their patients, which is, we owe them a great debt of gratitude. Okay, I think we're going to start that other one here that we were talking about.
No, we need a vote on that, George. A vote on the budget to approve it.
Oh, we do? Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Okay. Someone make a motion that we approve the budget as submitted and approved. Terry, want to make a motion?
Chairman, this is Evan Waters. I would,
Chairman,
Oh, Evan.
yeah, I'm sorry, Evan, go ahead.
No, you can make the motion, Evan. You haven't made one.
sure, why not?
Keep
I would
track
move
and
that
write it
we,
down here.
I would move that
Evan
we approve the
first.
budget as is.
Okay.
And I would second that, Mr.
Okay,
Chairman.
motion's made and seconded. All in favor, we'll do a head count. Perry?
Perry Jewell, aye.
Evan?
Evan Waters, aye.
Paul?
Paul Fortin, aye.
And George Eamon, aye. Okay, the budget is approved.
Okay, we got rubbish next. So we have our rubbish licenses go from January 1st to July 31st. So I've sent out all the requests. I have the checks. I'm doing up the rubbish licenses now. Typically, you guys sign them, which would be kind of a pain. So what I want to do is to be able to just type your names in when I do the rubbish license instead of you guys signing them, if nobody has an objection, so I can get them off my desk and out in the mail.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Perry.
just a couple of questions for Andrea, please.
Sure.
Just, I guess, how many are we dealing with? And are these all licensed otherwise collectors in the state?
Yes, they are. We have the typical ones. Let me pull them out. They're in a pile on my desk that I'd like to get rid of. Casella, Allied Waste, Waste Management, Fiore, like the big green dumpster people. GLM, they're out of Orange, I think. GLM bought up a couple of them. They bought up the Big Green Monster and one of the other ones. So they're all, rubbish companies that you all know.
Okay.
How many are there in all total?
I think there'll be 8 when all is said and done.
Okay.
See what this one came in.
Anybody have any comments on typing the name on a permit?
Well, I guess, I would like to, I don't have a problem with typing it as long as we have heard about it and we know what's going on and we approve, that this is appropriate. The one, kind of thing that we had happen last year, we were looking at the request, of some of the state people and some of the local people with regard to grant money, the change in commercial regulations and to require recycling of commercial contractors in this area. We currently require that obviously of residential. We have regulations that they have to meet and that it is, this is one of the few recourses we have if someone isn't, following regulations. So I certainly don't have a problem this year with doing what, our Andrea's suggesting, given that she's talked to us about it and she's told us who she's going to sign, and that kind of thing. But, I don't know that we need to set a precedent, for the future or for all time. But I think it's the appropriate thing to do in this individual case.
Yeah, I just want them off my desk. I will say there's a dumpster at my house and, because they're cleaning my barn, but it does have to be separated. They are
Yes.
very clear on the recyclables, going here in this one and rubbish going in another one. So the one that is at my house is being separated. So that was a
Yeah.
question you guys had back in the spring as part of that grant as to whether or not dumpster people were practicing the recycling portion of it. And the one that's at my house is.
Right. I think that's the answer, Andrea. Some are and some are not.
Well, I can
that,
only tell you the one that's at my house, so I
Yes,
know
I
that one
understand.
is.
I understand. And I know recently I asked someone I know that lives over in the Whalum, village area there in those condos, and there's not. So, that's why we were looking at regulations, but all of that got tabled and kind of went away with all the COVID crisis from a standpoint of the emphasis with the state.
And that you guys need to let me know whether you want to address that again in the spring. So that
Well,
would be coming up. That would be something that would be on your first meeting in March. We have one meeting in February, one in January. Your first meeting in March is a place where that would go. So you need to kind of decide whether you want that on.
I think the request was being driven by the availability of grant money, and that it was something that the town manager and others, within the region had asked that we bring ours into compliance with some other towns who did have commercial regulations, which did require that. And I think in general, we were moving in that direction. And
Right. And you may want to do it
favor of
regardless
it,
of the grant.
but I don't think it's necessarily something we want to pursue
Okay.
individually.
No, I don't want to get involved in that. I don't know. I don't like the idea of typewritten thing. In the past, within the past 9 months, anyway, 10 months, we, at one of our meetings, took a vote and enabled Andrea to sign for the board members in certain situations. And I would prefer to see a signature on these things. And I would propose.
Rather than type them?
I'm
That's
sorry?
fine. You want me to sign them rather than type your name on?
If I don't care. If you want to do that, you can do that. But what I was going to suggest is that either way, that we authorize Andrea to sign these permits with a little caveat at the top saying, for the board. Andrea Smith, administrative assistant, rather than typing it. I know typing looks, I don't know, it just doesn't look real. I mean, it's something that I find offensive about it. So I'd rather have a signature on it. I don't know.
I have no problem with that. I'd be happy to move that we do that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Anybody else have any other ideas, or what do you think of that idea?
I'll second that idea, Mr. Chairman.
Second that idea. Anybody want to third that idea? Okay, what I would propose as a motion, I guess, is that the board authorize Andrea, or administrative assistant Andrea Smith, to sign for the board rubbish permits as they become available for the duration of the COVID-19 crisis. We have a second?
Yeah, they already did it, right? Paul?
All seconded? Okay, all in favor? Joe Demond, aye.
Perry Jewell, aye.
Paul Ford, aye.
Waters, aye.
Okay, everybody's unanimously trusts you, Andrea. So the motion passes.
That's
Don't you-
reassuring.
she better not
after
ask
all
me
these
for a raise.
years.
What's that? What did you say? I trust you implicitly. I wouldn't let
Yeah,
you.
I said that's reassuring after all these years.
Okay, just too honest. Okay,
See, we
Yeah.
killed 20 minutes with just that.
yes, we did. Okay. That wasn't easy to cut that 20 minutes, I'll tell you. Let's see, what do we have? Is it 229 that we're doing? Yeah, 229 Page Street.
That's at 8:15, so you gotta wait. You can
Oh.
sneak Danny in a little early, because, I don't know.
Well, that's it.
You've
Danny's
already
not
kind of
back.
talked about it.
Is Danny not back? Okay, I don't know. Jim,
Yes, sir.
what do you think about 299 Page? We can do the discussions and get Danny's comments afterwards.
Again, it's a repair system for that property. It's kind of strange soil up near the front of the house, right along the road. It's kind of ledgy. Kind of convinced him that he wants to go out and back of the house, do some soil testing. Out in the back, we found depth of soil. It kind of fits in there nicely. I think he's asking for, although he needs to put it a little more clearly, for a 3-foot groundwater offset. That he can reduce the height of the system and kind of blend it into that little spot in the backyard a little better. It's 100 feet from the wells. The irrigation well question is there also, so that's something they'll need to address. I don't have an issue with the 3-foot groundwater offset, although I have reviewed the plans and have some comments off to the designer for him to revise the plan.
Yeah, I got a plan, but unfortunately I grabbed the wrong,
It's the big
Folder.
one, George.
and I don't have the letter, that's all.
Well, this is the one that I had mentioned, Mr. Chairman, Perry Jewell, that I thought, probably should reference, even if we add it for him. I know that he's very capable, but doesn't usually work with us. But I think we should have added to it the individual requirement that's, the CMR, if you will. That, or local, if that's the case, that's being requested, because it tells us what he's going to do, but it doesn't tell us, what is the variance that he's requesting, be varied here. But I think that's something that Andrea could pursue and just add to this.
Yeah. I'll look it up.
And I'm
You
sure,
want title and verse of what regulation he's looking to vary, if I
yes, and
understand.
whether it's state or local,
Which regulation?
Well, the groundwater would be both, would it not?
I
Yes,
think so.
And I don't understand the other one.
I don't have the letter, so I can't help you.
I'll
Thank you.
print it now for you, George. I don't know, required breakout regulation for grading is out 15-foot horizontal, then a 3-to-1 slope, 10-foot horizontal, 40 mil barrier provided, and then a 3-to-1 slope. Is that a variance?
He's got a ton of them.
It is
Yeah.
not.
Yeah,
It's not a
Yeah,
variance.
I think so.
It's not a variance?
No, so there's the one that's the 4-foot groundwater offset reduction down to 3. That's a
Right.
local upgrade approval, which is 15405, and I'm not sure which letter in that section.
15405, okay. So there's only one variance that's being requested, and it's a groundwater from 4 to 3,
Yeah, and then the local variance,
which is the same variance.
Correct.
Okay. Let me go get that, George. I printed that for you.
So I guess, Jim, you're saying there is no requirement for the 15 feet before the, beyond the field?
So the breakout requirement is 15, 3-to-1.
Okay,
So,
that's what I thought.
but what you can do, and is allowed under the code, is you can go out 10 feet, put in an impervious barrier. In this case here, they're using 40 mil poly, and then, so shorten up that distance. And then
Right.
go slope it 3-to-1 after that. It doesn't require a variance.
Okay, so you're saying that 15 feet is not part of a requirement?
Because he's putting in the poly barrier, he's designing it that way.
Right,
It complies with it's the spirit and intent of the 15.
Okay, it's an alternative that's provided for
Correct. Yep.
in the design.
And are you guys asking that if people want an irrigation well kept, that it would be at a future date on a separate request?
I think not necessarily, but I think we just need to, to be able to address each one individually because they
Right.
often have different situations,
Right, so this is another one that's in that situation, if I understand correctly.
Yes, it's stated there that the current owner would like to continue to use the shallow wells for irrigation only. So in this case, and I think Dan has rejoined us, we've just been talking about some of this, Dan, but we can formally take it up and at some point, George will do that. Jim was just giving us some background. The thing we did mention on the, for your own edification, on the Page Street one, was that, there was no reference to the individual regulation that,
I'd like to know what that regulation is too, Barry.
Jim gave it to us, 15.405, and I've got to look up the letter.
exactly, it's the letters that change.
Well, it'll be 4 and 5, 405.
But
Jim,
this
is part of that regulation, and I don't know them as well as you do, as part of that regulation, is there anything to do with 15 feet horizontal than 1 to 3?
I don't believe in that section it is. So that section of the
either.
code is all the local upgrade approvals. So that section allows, and it's either 404 or 405. I think it's, I'm not
Yeah.
exactly sure, but it's one of those two. And what it does is it lists essentially in the order of priority, the way the boards ought to look at varying plans based on the need and the site conditions. So, this is where this is where the groundwater offset comes in. This is where the offset to wells and wetlands come in. This is where the offset to property lines and foundations come in. So it's a long list of things that the board can consider varying depending on what's necessary for a particular site. You don't have to vary them. And then again, they're listed in the order of priority, the things that the board ought to consider first, second, third. So.
But isn't that section 405, doesn't that mention 10 feet out from the corner or from any point of the SAS out to the 1 to 3?
So the breakout grading is in the code. It's in the design section of the code, if you will. I think it's like it's 15.255 or something like that. There's a section on grading, and
Okay.
I think it's built in there.
Okay. Haven't seen that one in a while, I don't think.
But people use barriers all the time. They just don't require variances.
Yeah.
Right.
So Jim, you're good with this?
Yeah, I mean, I've sent him some review comments. I haven't seen a revised plan yet. So I'm not necessarily opposed to the 3-foot groundwater offset.
Okay, well, you can mention that to them, see if they can change it.
No, I mean, I don't think that's an issue. So if the board want to consider that, the well is up gradient and at least 100 feet away. But they will need to address the irrigation wells. I think in this case here, the 2 irrigation wells, instead of being drilled wells, I think they're just shallow wells, they're concrete tiles. So
Okay,
they need to be made both safe, and you need to decide whether you want to leave them in place. So, to Perry's comments, these won't affect the town water system because this house is on its own individual well. But if they had cross connections between their own well and these irrigation wells, you could have a cross connection issue.
yeah,
Probably
okay.
not, but you could.
This is not on any, where is it, Page Street, no, there's no town, there's no district water down there.
I do have someone waiting to be admitted from the
Okay.
waiting room. Looks like I will admit them. This could be, James Moran, I don't know. Were you expecting him, Dan?
The Page
James
Street job is
Moran.
not my job.
Oh,
James
okay.
Moran is the
Then
engineer for this.
I'm admitting
particular
him.
job.
Okay,
Yes. I guess I'm just asking who it is. Is it James Moran that just joined us?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I could sign in. I'm on the agenda, I guess, for 8:15.
Exactly. What I'll do is I'll rename you with your real name versus the phone on our thing. And yeah, we're just kind of waiting for the next item. And
Okay.
we'll turn it back to you, George.
Okay. Is this person here to,
Yeah, this is mine,
Name,
166 South Road, the irrigation well. at
No,
Dan's is first.
yep.
James,
this first,
right,
yep.
but James Moran is here for 299 page that you've just been discussing.
Well, Jim, yeah, we'll return to that.
Okay,
Okay, we're looking at South Railroad,
Yeah, so 166 South Road. This is what,
166 South Railroad, request for an agricultural well. Okay.
yeah, this is what Jim was talking about earlier.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
We kind
In general, in this particular one, yeah. We've been talking about agricultural wells. So, by the way, welcome to our club. We've been talking about agricultural wells all evening, off and on, it seems. And
So what happened on this job is the homeowner was selling the property. They had a failed Title V and they were
Mhm.
also having problems with their well. They had the option to tie into town water. So we tied into town water. Then we put the septic system in.
Yep.
The artesian well was discontinued. The pipes were taken out of the house.
Yep.
All the way to the well casement.
Okay.
The well is 105 feet from the septic system.
okay,
So it's not within the 100 foot.
Yep.
But it is an artesian well and is an expense of roughly $1,000 to discontinue an
Yeah.
artesian well.
that much.
So the homeowner, yes, because you have to cut it and put bentonite chips and all that type of stuff.
Wow, okay.
So because of that, the homeowner would like to leave the well in place and have the deed, recording that it's a irrigation well.
There.
Like I said, it's 105 feet, but it is a hole in the ground. It's an artesian well. So
Yep.
just Jim had brought it up.
Okay.
Again, it was
Cap
kind
it,
of missed. It wasn't really part of the permit process because it didn't have to be.
Right,
But once we tied into town water and discontinued it, then we did.
then it becomes an issue, yeah,
That's correct.
yeah. It's gonna cap it, or, is that what's supposed?
So it has a cap on. It's an artesian well. It's capped.
It's, yeah,
Again,
okay.
They don't want to plug it. They don't want to fill it. They just want to put a
I don't have any problems with it.
notification on it.
Mr. Chair, Perry Jewell.
Yes, Barry?
My only question would be is, how do they intend to use it, I guess, if it's,
Well, again, they don't. They're selling the house. They're literally moving in the next week or two.
Yes.
So it's just really the lack of, spending an extra $1,000. And if the new owner does want to use it, then the new owner would have to, reconfigure the pump and all that and tie it into, the house for outside irrigation and all that. And I guess the whole point is, if that was to happen, then they need to be aware of the fact that it can't be potable water. So that's why the deed notification has to be put on.
Well, they would know when they, whoever buys that house is gonna know immediately that there's a deed restriction on it because of that well.
That's correct. And
They
that's
can't
why we
do
want to
anything
cover
about
that. That's why we want to cover that base immediately.
That's why we do those, yeah.
That's correct.
that's clearly the right thing to do.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
I mean, honestly, the chances of it being used as an irrigation well are probably slim. But again, it is there and we put it on the deed and then everybody knows that that's really the only way it can be used.
Yep.
It's always, to me, desirable if there's some way to terminate it in a shed or something removed from the house or removed from the other district water connection somehow that, because normally that would only be used anyway in the, in warmer weather. But,
I
yeah,
assume, Dan, you pulled the line from the house to the well out.
That's correct.
Okay.
yeah, that's the important thing for now,
That's correct. Yep.
and the deed restriction.
It just occurred to me that this does break new ground. We've never done this before, this particular situation before.
every time we've done an agricultural well, it was because the individual whose property it was on wanted to use the well. This is the first time that we've looked at one that he does not intend to use the well. He just doesn't want to expend funds to be able to not destroy it.
Mhm.
That may be
I just
true,
I
Mr.
just wanted to
Chairman.
bring that up.
I think it's the thing to do because it encourages really the use of, kind of a local resource of water, which, like say they're using it for a vegetable garden or even for the lawn for that matter, shrubs. It does, it's really better. It's, more appropriate than using district water to water it all. And it does take it right out of the local ground and return it to the local ground right there. And I think it's preferable to using district water for those lower grade purposes. So I think the right thing, as Dan has pointed out, is to deed restrict it. I think it's much worse. What I think has happened occasionally in the past is that these things have been disconnected, but it's just been left there with no deed restriction. And as a result of that, somebody may come along later and tie into it without us even knowing it. And without being aware that there could be a situation there.
That has happened.
I'm sure, because,
Here in town it happened.
like if Dan hadn't brought this forward, they just connected to district water and taken it out of the house. There can be a loose end there with regard to decommissioning the well.
Yeah. Well, you destroy it. The well does not exist any longer.
But I'm just saying.
You can't use it. It just
there
doesn't
can be a
exist.
loose end there with making sure that happens.
I'm sorry?
There can sometimes be a loose end with making sure that happens.
Well, there shouldn't be
It is.
because they have to get a permit to destroy the well. And then you've got, somebody has to come in and do it, and then we have to be notified. When we.
But I'm saying if Dan had put in his septic with the existing water system, which works, is 100 feet away, and later they connected to district water afterward as a separate after fact. We wouldn't have it wouldn't be as good as having it deed restricted. That's what I'm saying. I think the deed restriction is what Dan is proposing is a better way to deal with it, really.
Anybody else have comments? None? Okay. Would someone like to make a motion that we either grant this request to maintain this well as an agricultural well or not?
I spoke in favor of it, Mr. Chairman. I guess I'd be interested in Jim's comment, but or his feelings in this matter. But why don't we get that, and then I'd be prepared to make a motion if.
Okay. Jim?
So again, as Dan mentioned, the well is in excess of 100 feet from the leaching area. So I don't necessarily have an issue with it. Our concern, and I expressed to Dan, is that these are open holes in the ground, and we just want to make sure that it's clearly referenced on the deed that it's not considered a potable water supply and that it's disconnected from the house, so it can't be used as a potable supply.
Okay.
So,
And
Mr.
can't
Chairman,
be
based on
used-
that, I would be happy to move that we do grant this request, that this well be designated as an agricultural only well and be so deed restricted.
Is there a second?
Mr. Chairman, I second Paul Thornton.
Okay. A motion's been made and seconded that we grant the request to maintain this well as an agricultural well. All in favor? We'll do a head count. Perry?
Harry Jewell, aye.
Evan?
Waters, aye.
Paul?
Paul Thornton, aye.
And Joe Demon also votes aye. The motion passes.
Thank you. I'll take care of that.
Yep.
Have a good evening.
I was
Thank you, Dan.
just asking as devil's advocate. I do that a lot, Dan. Don't get nervous. Okay, let's see. We got a couple of minutes to wait for the next one. Anybody watch the Patriots yesterday?
I
Yes.
did.
Yes, I did too.
It's one of the best games.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? Well, these guys want a job next year. They played pretty well yesterday, I think.
Well, it was the Jets after all.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was the Jets. Yeah, when's the last time the Jets beat them? And what were they? They only won 2 games all year, I think.
Jets, yeah. But they're the last two, so that was good.
I was busy doing something else, and I didn't start watching the game until the third quarter had just started, and they were Patriots were behind 14-7, was it? And I said, "Damn, I can't believe they're gonna goof this one up." But
Is
they
there a
did.
game tonight?
Huh?
Is there a game tonight?
No, there's one tomorrow night. Brady's team there. They're starting the playoffs tomorrow night.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Chairman? I don't know, Paul, he's, he must have us disconnected.
I can hear you now. I couldn't before.
Paul?
yeah,
Paul wanted
the,
to say something, George.
yeah, the Buccaneers are going to play the Washington January 9th at like
Oh,
8:30.
so there is none tomorrow night or tonight. We're done to the playoffs.
Right, we are.
Okay.
Close enough. Dan, you back? Oh, Dan.
It's
No,
not Dan.
that's not Dan.
It's James.
James, I'm sorry.
Yes,
Mr.
Jim
Moran,
is fine. I'm here.
are you here, Mr. Moran?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, I can hear you,
Okay.
sir. I can't see you, but I can hear you.
That's good. I'd be nervous if you
Is
could see me.
this, I'm told, this is the first time that you've been before our board?
Yeah, in the last 10, 15 years, maybe.
Okay. What we'd ask, looking at your letter for 299 Page Street, what we would require or ask you to do is when you send these letters in, could you please put the Title V variance numbers in there for us? And if you don't have a
Sure.
copy of, if you don't have a copy of the Lunenburg regulations, Ms. Schnepp can get you a copy and mail them to you, or you can pick them up, or
Yeah.
however you want to do it.
Are they
You'll have
are they
those.
online?
I don't know. Andrea,
What they're asking is that you put the regulation in that you're varying.
yeah, but,
So
Yes, no, I understand.
yeah,
I
but
do
do we
understand. I
have
will do that next
the
time.
local regulations
Yes.
online, Andrea?
Yes, we do.
Okay. You go to the website and look for the Board of Health if you can find it. It should be in there somewhere. And both the
Okay.
well and the septic systems are on there, so you can find them both.
Okay.
Okay, what you're looking for apparently are some regulations for 299 Page Street. It's a 3-bedroom home, trying to prepare the property for sale. And you're going to fix up the septic system. And the first one is a typical one, required 4-foot separation from bottom of the leaching field, leaching facility for 2-minute perk. And you want to go to 3, you want to reduce it by 12 inches, so up to 3 feet, that's fine. Required breakout regulations, grading is 15 horizontal, then a 3-to-1 slope. 10-foot horizontal, 40 mil barrier provided for the 3-to-1 slope. We were talking about that particular requirement, and our agent, Mr. Gareffi, who's with us tonight also. You know Jim Gareffi, do you?
Yes, I do.
Okay, well, Jim has some comments that he'll fill you in on when we get down that far.
Okay.
Would you like to explain what you're doing?
You want me to explain it?
Yes, please. Yeah, usually
Okay.
we have a little dialogue from the
Okay.
engineer.
that's
and
fine.
he tells us kind of what we're doing.
Okay. So you made some spot on comments earlier that, the home is going to be sold. Current homeowners are trying to downsize. It is an existing 3-bedroom home. And the system was original or put in the 70s. I did a little research, and Jim Griffey helped me about where the old system is and stuff like that. We originally tried to do some testing up near the old system and keep it in the front of the home, and we didn't hit very desirable soils there. We hit some ledge, kind of directly west of the existing system. So between Jim and I, and Jim wanted me to try the backyard. That's what pushed us down to the backyard. And we hit some decent soil down there. We had I believe, let me look at the perk test here. Yeah, we had 9 minutes per inch perk rate. So we had substantial depth to above refusal, which all met the code. So that's where we decided to put the system is down in the back. And we're able to actually also keep it as a gravity system, which I think is ideal for everyone. So the 2 variances we are seeking tonight are under the maximum feasible upgrade in Title V. When somebody's upgrading their home, is the 4-to-3 offset. That's the vertical offset from the bottom of leaching field to the seasonal high groundwater. So again, we're looking to vary it by 12 inches, like you mentioned previously. So we're looking for a 3-foot offset to the seasonal high water table. That's number 1. Number 2, we're looking for kind of to go out 10 feet for the breakout, not 15. And there's a policy in Title V that allows us to offer a 40 mil barrier to keep any effluent that might escape down the slope, keep it contained, and that's how we do it. If you look at the top of the plan that was submitted to the board, I know it was recent, there's a detail of that poly barrier there that Mr. Griffey asked me to put on the plan. The reason why we can't go out to 15 feet is, we've got a shed in the way, and we're trying to keep maximum distance from the well. So rather than losing the shed, we're asking for that waiver under the maximum feasible upgrade. And lastly, in the letter, if you noticed, again, directly west of the system, there's 2 open wells there that the homeowner would like to use for irrigation here. I guess that's where he currently has it set up. He does have an artesian well to the right of the house, the right of the driveway, right side of the house. So he would like to, be able to offer that irrigation usage to a new buyer. And I was listening earlier to the previous people, and it seems like maybe with a deed restriction that might be a possibility. But that's what we're trying to do tonight, and we ask the board for their permission.
Okay, Jim, would you like to repeat your comments as you did a little while ago, please?
Sure. So as I mentioned, I had reviewed the plans and I sent Mr. Moore and some comments to revise the plans. The 3-foot groundwater offset, again, I think it assists in grading the yard, keeping distance from the shed and probably helping the system remain a gravity system. It's 100 feet from the existing water well that's being used by the house. So for all those reasons, I don't have an issue with that 1-foot reduction. The barrier at 10 feet, again, in Title V and 15.255, it allows the applicant, the owner, the homeowner, the designer to design a barrier at 10 feet with a 3-to-1 slope behind it. So there shouldn't be any issue with that at all.
Okay. Thank you, Jim.
In the wells?
Anybody else have anything to say?
Mr. Chairman, I didn't get the plans. Did we get the plans for that?
Yeah, it came today.
I didn't get them in an email.
Let me see.
I got it, but my printer refused to print it. I don't know why.
Let's see, make sure I didn't forget you. I sent it to you.
Oh,
You want me to
sorry.
ship it to you now, quick?
Yeah, please, if you don't mind. Thank you.
Mr. Moran, let me, I don't want to give you advice or anything, but I'll make a comment that if you do more work in Lunenburg, or you expect to do more work in Lunenburg, Jim Gareffi will be the agent. He's our town agent here, in addition to everything else he does. Use him because he knows the soils better in Lunenburg than anybody. He knows everything. If he says, put the system over there, take it under strong consideration. And then
No, we did, and
they save you some time in digging holes.
yeah, no, I understand. No, I agree. I've known
Yeah, he's
for
good.
30 years.
He's good. He's really good.
Yeah.
Hello, Mr. Chairman, this is Perry Toole.
Yes, Barry.
Yeah, if you're looking for comments from board members, I certainly don't have any problem with the, the 2 bulleted items here, which have been requested. I'm not sure I know enough about these shallow wells to sign off on that.
I was going to leave that for a little bit later, but we can talk about
Okay,
it now, I
that's-
suppose.
If you want to separate the two
Nope,
things.
No, well, we have 2 that we need to vote on. The third one is, well, we need to vote on that one too. But that's.
Yeah,
separated
exactly.
a little bit.
If-
Go ahead, Perry. Make your comments.
If you want to separate them, it's
Nope.
very
Go
easy to
ahead.
do that. And I would, be happy to move that we approve the 2 requests.
Paul wanted to look at the plan.
Okay.
Did you get it, Paul?
Yes, I did. I can see where the 2 wells are now. There's a
Okay.
5-foot offset and a 26-foot offset.
Right. And those are currently being used as irrigation wells, and they want to keep them as irrigation wells. So I don't know if that's part of your discussion now.
Oh, it's just, for me, it would be sharing them with other people. It seems like that would be a kind of a weird deed restriction.
Are these wells covered?
Yeah, the homeowner has built some covers for them out of concrete. He's a contractor, carpenter. Each well is covered. They're concrete well tiles. They go down roughly, say, 30 feet. And the pump sits in there that would use for irrigation.
Okay, I'll just, we talk about, big holes in the ground that just, kind of sit there. So we want to make sure that no one's going to walk by and fall in. That's,
Mr. Chairman, could I ask, is there standing water in the bottom, of this dug well? Or is there a point driven at the bottom? I've seen that done sometimes so that there isn't
Yeah,
standing
no.
water.
There is standing water. They're concrete round cylinders that are sectioned together. I guess they're 5 feet each. And my guesstimate is the water's down about 25 feet in each well, but
Yeah.
there is standing water.
Okay. Usually, you can't suck the water that high, but you could, have a submersible pump that would would pump it, but, there's a limit as to how high you can suck water. And it's somewhere in the, around that range, 20 some odd feet.
Correct.
But is that the case? Is the pump in the well or is it out of the well or?
I believe the pump is in the well.
Okay.
You can pump 90 feet with a pump.
Oh, yeah, no, if you're pushing the water, it's one thing, but if you're
Yeah.
trying to lift it with a sucking on it.
Yeah.
Then it's, but yeah, there's ways around that too, where you can
Yeah, I'll call and show this.
use a jet.
Mr. Chairman?
Paul, I'm sorry, Paul, is that you, Paul?
No, it's
No.
Jim.
Jim,
Jim,
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
On these wells, I mean, the area is all kind of brambles, so we kind of walked over and took a look at them. If you were going to approve them as irrigation wells, I guess my recommendation is that and again, I believe they're true shallow wells, so they're just a hole in the ground with these concrete tiles,
Right,
that we make sure they have secure covers and that we make sure the water line has been disconnected from the house.
that's what I just asked, and I thought he answered in the affirmative that they were covered. There is no cover on the top of the well?
I like I said, I don't recall based on our site inspection, they're all brambles in there, so I remember getting
Okay.
close, but I don't remember what was on top of the wells.
Okay. Yeah, those wells would have to be covered. We can't have open holes out in the backyard.
The wells are currently covered.
They are covered. Okay, he's got some
Yes.
concrete circles or squares or something like that that
Yes.
covers the entire opening. Okay, so somebody couldn't
That's correct.
fall. Okay, thank you.
yeah, there's normally a concrete cover that would fit right on top of these concrete tiles,
Yeah.
or these concrete pieces of
Okay.
pipe that make up the
Okay.
walls. This is not uncommon that people used to use these around the lakes, even
Yep.
the shallow wells.
Paul, are you finished?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, have we ever done anything like this where they're gonna share it with another homeowner next door?
Share what?
The wells? Because I heard that in his stipulations, the engineer, was that the person that owns this property wants to share those wells with the adjoining property. Am I wrong in that?
Yes, Jim Warren speaking. No, the home is being prepared for sale, so the owner wanted to give the new buyer to this particular property the use of those.
Oh, okay, thank you.
It has an extensive lawn area, so, not to use the potable water for the watering the lawn. It's a pretty big area of lawn
Yeah.
that they're currently watering.
Is this house on the left or the right as you go up Page Street from say,
On the left.
it's on the left, so that would be on the northern side of the road. Okay. All right, I think I know the
Yes.
house. Okay, I think I know the house. Okay, all right. Any other questions or comments? Would someone like to make a motion to approve the two Title V variances?
Certainly I'd be willing to do that. This is Perry Jewell. So
We
we're
have a
treating
second.
the wells separately?
Yeah,
Okay. I'd be happy to move that we grant the two requested variances from Title V.
okay. Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Say aye. Say aye with the head count. Perry?
Perry Jewell, aye.
Paul?
Paul Fortin, aye.
Mr. Water?
Evan Waters, aye.
And Mr. Raymond, yes, aye. Okay, those are approved. The wells, I would like to take separately, and we can do that now. Would anyone like to make a motion on an action to allow the property to continue to have two surface wells as agricultural? Do we have a motion?
Well, for the purposes, again, this is Perry Jewell, Mr. Chairman, but for the purposes of a little further discussion, I would move that that we grant that request and indeed restrict it again. I guess you know, I don't really understand why there's more than one. I don't understand, I don't know.
The only explanation I could offer, Perry, and it's probably wrong, is that at some point in time, I believe this is an older house, quite old, and perhaps the one well went dry and they dug a second, or wasn't providing enough water, and they figured they might get better use out of them if they dug another one. I think Mr. Moran said that one of them he thought was 25 feet deep. That sounds pretty deep is it a dug well or is it a?
Yeah, I would say it's a dug well, yes.
Wow, 25 feet, holy
And
cow.
what was the depth?
20, well, he said he thought it was about 25 feet. It's a pretty deep hole.
I did not measure it.
Yeah,
So I'm guessing, we looked inside and you could see several rings of the concrete riser,
Uh-huh.
the cylinder.
Yeah.
And the water was at the bottom.
yeah, okay. That could be, did you get a look at the other one?
Well, I did look in both.
Yeah.
They both seemed similar. And again, I didn't measure it. And I agree with your earlier comment about, one went dry or they needed more volume, so they dug another well. But I don't know the exact answer.
How far apart are they?
I would say we located them by instrument survey, and this is the 1 to 20. I'd say about 22 feet apart, maybe 25 feet apart.
Okay. It's the same water table apparently, but maybe.
And they are fully disconnected now?
Yeah, you had said that. Yeah, I think you said that earlier.
Yeah, we do have an artesian well to the right-hand side of the property that was put in after that.
So where does the water that comes from these wells terminate?
I would say right at the well at this point.
Are you talking about where they're used, Perry?
Yeah, well, I mean, you've got a pump down there and it's pumping water into a pipe, and where's the pipe go?
I would think he just connects a hose to it and uses it however he sees fit.
Just
You know,
turns
I
it
know
on
he's
when he
using-
uses it, yeah.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
would work, yeah.
Yep.
And it would
Okay.
let it drain when, during the winter.
Yeah, I don't think he doesn't use it anytime during the winter.
Well, again, Perry Jewell again, I think probably there's only two alternatives here in my mind. Either you get these things closed up, or you deed restrict them, and make sure that potential buyers are aware that they exist, and that, that they are part of his responsibility going forward.
Well, if we approve the request, it's deed restricted out. It has to be deed restricted. That's all.
Right.
That's a part
Right.
of
Right.
an approval.
That's what I mean. If you leave them, I think that's the lesser evil, is
Yep.
to restrict it at least.
So do we have a motion to either approve or deny this request?
Yeah. And Mr. Chairman, I guess I would be willing to make such a motion that
If you're uncomfortable, Perry, give it some consideration, or we could delay the vote and think about it.
well, I'm sympathetic in the sense that I know, the issue you can run into if you're
Mhm.
trying to have a yard or you're trying to have shrubs. And if you're dealing with the wells in this area, as was pointed out before, there's ledge and there's lots of stuff. I mean, people
Yep.
can have fairly deep wells in this part of town and still not have great flow.
Yeah.
So I'm sympathetic to the idea that if there's, like I say, some people that are near a lake just pump it directly out of the lake. And this is a similar concept where you're just digging down to groundwater and then, using that and returning it in a cycle to the groundwater. So I know that you really cannot, continue to use the drinking water well often without it going dry on you when you get into these situations. So, yeah, I'm willing to move that, that we do that we allow them to continue to use these 2 wells for irrigation only.
Okay.
Several reasons, and another being that they're so close to the septic that obviously they shouldn't be used for anything else.
Right. Okay, is there a second to that motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll second Paul Fortin.
Okay, Paul. Okay, motion's made and seconded that we grant the use of these 2 wells on the property as agricultural wells with a deed restriction on each well, not to be used for potable drinking water. All in favor? Perry?
Perry Jewell, aye.
Paul?
Paul Fortin, aye.
Evan?
Waters, aye.
George Eamon, aye. Okay.
Again, I think we should commend Mr. Moran for bringing this to our attention too.
Yes.
As awkward as it is sometimes to deal with them, it's more awkward not to, and more dangerous not to.
Yes, indeed. I agree, Perry. Okay.
All right, thank you for your time.
That's it.
Now,
Thank you.
COVID update. Does Jim have a COVID update?
Sure. There's always something to update on COVID.
Absolutely. COVID keeps the world go round.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Fewer people.
Well, hopefully not for long. So I guess just some high level things. We seem to have a spurt of complaints around the holidays between myself and Andrea and George. We've seemed to gone down to different places to remind them that masks are still required. And we've gotten at least one of them from the state, which I followed up with the owner on as far as mask wearing. So, at some point in time, the board may want to consider, some of these are at kind of the second violations, a second complaint down there. So when I get a moment, I'm going to write letters because that's kind of how the escalating enforcement goes. You go down and do some verbal education, then you provide some written education. And then after that, the board can consider fining in accordance with the state's escalating scale there. So again, something the board may want to consider. The number of cases in town for the last 7 days, up a little bit from the 2 weeks previous, about 51 cases this past week. Essentially, that's from Friday the 1st back to whatever the 7 days is before that, the 26th. Again, a lot of situations where you're getting multiple cases at the same address. So again, I think what we're seeing is transmission within households, which if you look at the state's report, accounts for about 40 to 45% of what they consider clusters, where there's 2 or more cases in a particular place. Households seem to account for 40 to 45% of those. We have, or I should say I have a regular meeting with the school superintendent and the school nurse leader on Monday mornings. So we met this morning. Again, they've done an extremely good job of making sure that the schools are safe, that they're working with parents to make sure kids and staff aren't coming to school if they're sick, addressing issues if they pop up. We've had a couple issues with staff who needed to go home, and we've done some contact tracing, but they've done an extremely good job. And so I'll continue to meet with the superintendent and nurse leader. I think that's a valuable thing to do. The superintendent mentioned that they may be going with some streaming for some real-time streaming in the near future for schools. So if kids need to be excluded either for close contact or for any other reason they're sick, hopefully they'll be able to stream into the classroom as opposed to just do the online learning. So sounds like a better mechanism for education for them. We are working with the first responders in all our towns, Lunenburg included, to put together a first responders clinic first responders and healthcare workers and a handful of others are considered top priority for vaccinations. We have a clinic set up for the latter part of January. It'll be 2 days in which we hope to get all the first responders, police, fire, and EMS vaccinated. We'll be using the Moderna vaccine because that's the one that is a little more manageable from a cold storage point of view. And so we're working to finalize the last bits and pieces of that clinic. We had software training. The state has come out with some new software for us to use, both for scheduling, for making sure it reports to the state's vaccine database, for billing, for setting up the clinic. So if it works as well as the demonstration did today, it should make our lives a lot easier doing these clinics. And we're starting to get more and more questions from the general public about when they can get a vaccination. And probably one of the most unsatisfactory answers that we can give people is you can check the state website, because on the state website, there's a ton of information except when can I go get my vaccine? It is at this point, it's still very vague, and I'm not sure vague is the right word, but the state has a plan. The plan has 3 phases. Within those phases, they have categories of people based on, COVID facing. That's what the first phase is. Individuals, the healthcare workers, the first responders. And the second phase is those people who may be at greater risk of getting COVID. So in that one, you have people like people over 65, people with 2 comorbidities. There's a few others in that group. And then the third phase is the rest of us. And they have a timeline, kind of a projected timeline for those vaccinations. What we're telling people now is that we don't know when the vaccine will be widely available to the public. And what we had been told early on from the state, that when it's widely available to the public, that individuals should be able to get vaccinations where they normally get their vaccinations. So CVS, Walgreens, their primary care physician. Once it's widely available, it probably will also be made available to the boards of health to run clinics. Again, that's sometime off into the spring, we think. We're just not sure because we're not privy to the state's plan and how much vaccine they're going to get at any given time. So that's what we're telling the public at this point. Most people don't like that answer. I just don't have a better one. I tell them that kind of keep a check on the pharmacy's website to see if they're kind of saying when they might have vaccine, and to check with their primary care physicians to see when they may anticipate having the vaccine. But again, those answers aren't terribly satisfactory to people. And I'm open to any questions you may have.
That's good.
That was really
Just to
good.
give you an idea of the scope of the clinics that Jim is talking about for the first responders. Of course, in Neshoba, we have 16 towns in the Neshoba organization. And it totals, what was it you said, Jim? 800 people?
We based on the numbers that I got from police, fire,
Right.
EMS, they're looking at somewhere between 700 and 800 persons that we'll try to vaccinate at a regional clinic in a couple of days. 2 days, the clinic, not in a couple of days, but it'll be a 2-day
yeah.
clinic.
I remember we talked about that, yeah. That's about twice the size of the clinics that we normally run for flu and other clinics. So it's a big effort on our Neshoba staff to be able to do that. Did we get volunteers, Jim? I know we were looking for some.
I'm putting together that staffing plan this week.
Okay. All right. We got four guys here who don't do a whole heck of a lot. Call them up. They'll come over. They'll give shots.
So they licensed to administer?
What's that, Jim?
Are they licensed to administer vaccine?
Yeah. Well, I got a few people I'd like to give vaccine.
I gave 3 tonight.
Yeah. The response to the vaccine has been really, really poor. The numbers I've seen on reported from state and federal agencies are just terrible. They are running maybe 25 or 30% of what they expected to do. There hasn't been a mad stampede to get this stuff. I tend to think that some of the advertising that we saw on it was not the best antidotes for what antidotes, good word, for what we're trying to do with these vaccines, but it'll come eventually. I
Mr.
saw
Chairman?
that uptick, so it's getting better.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, the governor addressed that today, I thought fairly well,
Okay.
in that he said, that he didn't really think at this stage that what he said or what any other experts say would probably help that situation. He thought that it was really a result of, from the healthcare people he's talked with, it's more they're looking for their own peers' reaction. In other words, there are some people who are willing to be first, and there are others who would like to have someone else go first. They intend to get it, but they want to really know what they're dealing with. Can they expect to be sick for 2 weeks after they take it? Are they still, how's it going to affect them, or how's it affecting people?
Yep.
So that what he thinks is going to happen is these people are going to come forward, but they're going to wait to see what they can expect in the way of reaction from their peers. And it's really what their peers tell them. And that's whether they're firefighters or ambulance drivers or they're people in the hospital. There's a certain number of them, at least, that because of some of the reports of side effects or reactions, really want to wait and let somebody else do it first and see and then get firsthand feedback from them as to how they feel about it. And I think that's human nature. And I think that's, although it may not have been anticipated, it's probably not unexpected, or shouldn't have been unexpected.
I agree with you, Barry. I lay some blame with the media on that too, because if you have, tonight, for instance, there was one fellow who was being interviewed, and he was for the vaccine. He went and he got it, and he ended up having a headache for 2 days. And they made a real big deal out of it. There's probably one guy out of 40,000.
Yeah, exactly.
If that one guy saying that, it causes a lot of people, oh my goodness, I don't want to have a headache for 2 days, and it'll make them more unavailable to go get the thing until later on, hopefully later on.
But hopefully this will.
Anybody else want to talk about COVID?
No,
The only question I would have for Jim, Mr. Chairman, would be that how can we better support him, or does he need our support, with regard to the enforcement side of things? I know beforehand, when I, temporarily was involved as chairman there, that, we had one contractor that one retail establishment or wholesale establishment that, was a regular problem, I guess. Hopefully that's not as bad as it was, but I guess that's what I'm curious as, how's it going, I guess, is there, we had talked at that time about, would there be some benefit in giving one of these companies a letter or something from the board, calling them out and asking them to appear before us and explain what they were going to do to come into compliance with whatever the issue is, whether it's
That's part of the process, Barry.
or it's not wearing masks, or it's whatever it may be.
That's part of the process, Barry. There's a step-by-step that we take. I've stopped in some places, we've got a report, and I'll stop. The problem is, by the time you get a report, when you get to this particular store, the offense is gone. Most of them are face masks. And if I make a call on the store, I'll speak with the store manager or whoever is in charge of the place, and they make them aware of what they should be doing. We had a report, but it's an unverifiable report, and there's a lot of them are that way. The repeats, Jim gets commented on all of these things, because he knows more about it than we do. But if we have someone who is a chronic offender, Jim makes a visit, so we have so many visits that we will make, and then they get a letter, come to see the board, and then after that, we have the ability to find them. And I'll tell you,
Absolutely.
I don't want to find anybody.
I know,
It's tough out there.
it's education first.
Yep, but at some point in time, you sort of got to do something. But
At this point- Go ahead, George.
I'm
I'm
sorry.
sorry. So at this point, we've had one contractor, we actually, because of the multiple complaints, we actually sent a letter explaining, kind of explaining what was necessary, the governor's orders, so there was no question about what needed to happen. There are probably two more businesses that I probably need to send letters to, so they're at that same point. I guess what I'm looking for, probably the next step might be that if you want to kind of do a step between, finding them and the general, letter that we send for education is to have them come into the board and provide you with a plan of how they're going to comply. Then again, you've given them an opportunity to put together a plan, come explain it to you, what needs to be done. And after that, I mean, I don't know how many chances you want to give a person, but we've educated them verbally, we've educated them in writing, we've asked them to come in and provide the board with what they're going to do to comply. I'm not sure what else you would want them to do short of providing.
Jim, do you believe at this point there's anybody that needs to come before the board?
Not at this point.
Okay,
Of course, if it happens to be a food establishment, we have the authority to rescind or suspend their food service permit, and that would probably be about the worst thing we could do for them. Of course, it doesn't, fining probably would do the same. I'm not even sure if fining would do it. It would depend on how good their business was doing, I guess, whether or not they wanted to pay a fine or not. But to suspend or even revoke a food service permit is a possibility that is certainly within our power.
And that's a strong step, obviously, to take.
Really is.
I would like to see them appear before us.
Oh, of
First.
course, of
And-
course.
And definitely.
Yeah, I think we're required to do that before
Yes.
we could do something like that.
It's certainly the appropriate legal thing to do, you would think as well, to make sure there's absolutely no question and that they have, have put in place a plan and violated that plan.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I like the idea of a plan, that makes sense. Okay, anything else, gentlemen? I would entertain a motion to adjourn. I'd be entertained by a motion to adjourn.
That's Perry Jewell. Very well. I'll move that we adjourn.
I thank you too much. And you can see Evan over. My God, look at Evan. My God, he's panting away. He wants to. You want to make that second pair? You go right ahead, Evan.
I'd be happy to second that
Thank
motion.
you. Okay, motion's made and seconded. That we adjourn. All in favor? George Eamon, aye.
Perry Jewell, aye.
Paul Fortin, aye.
Waters, aye.
See, I didn't even have to prompt them. We are adjourned. Thank you, gentlemen. Jim, thanks an
Thank you all.
awful lot for your time tonight.
Good night.
Good night.
Recording off.
Thank you. Happy New Year.